Hello and welcome to San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans, by the fans. Today I'm with my co-host, WTF North. He is not very talkative today, but hopefully we can get a word or two out of him today. We'll throw some harsh questions his way and see if we can get anything to bounce back. I'm with my producer, Jason Eidsmo, filling in as well. We have our staff writer at boltbeat.com, Twitter tag at BoogaP, who's going to be my co-host today. Booga, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it on such short notice. Chargers lose an upset to the Bucs, 34-24. They dropped to 4-5. I don't even know what to say at this point. It's one heartbreak after another. What was the biggest thing in your mind, reminiscing on that game? What was the most disappointing thing to you?
Well, first off, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys know how much I love the show, and I'm honored to be a part of this. As far as the Tampa Bay game, it was kind of not that Phillip Rivers moves quickly anyway, especially when trying to roll out of the pocket. But that interception that he threw to the wide-open Leonard Johnson, it was in slow motion to me. And the closer he got to the out-of-bounds, I kept saying in my mind, please just run it, throw it away or step out of bounds. You've got plenty of space. And the closer he got, the more I realized there's absolutely no way he's going to do that. He's going to try to force it. And it's kind of sad that I'm kind of resigned to as many fans are, that's what's going to happen. And
right.
Indeed, he did that. He hit him right in the gut. I mean, there was no chance of that getting to the receiver. And hey, what do you know, 70 yards later or whatever it ended up being, the Chargers have what could have been a field goal or turned out to be a 10-point swing in the game. Right,
yeah, Phillip Rivers' decision-making is at crucial points in the game has been horrible. I'm going to hit it directly in between the eyes. I mean, his decision-making, his gunslinging ability kind of is reminiscent of Brett Favre in a way, just trying to make too much happen with his arm. And, he's underthrowing a lot of receivers. He's undercutting a lot of receivers. He's just not making the right decisions. I mean, we're down 3 points, halfway through the fourth quarter. He throws that ball away or, like you said, runs out of bounds. We kick a field goal. We tie the game. Our defense is playing pretty well. They shut down Martin for the most part. They shut down Vincent Jackson for the most part. Our defense arguably played pretty well in that game, with all things considered. And, if we kick that field goal, I like our chances because, defense gets a stop. Our offense has been able to pass on them all day long. I mean, as far as yardage, I think it was like 2-1 as far as yardage and time of possession. We had the ball 36 minutes to their 23. I mean, just everything was in our favor, and to not come out with that win was very, very heartbreaking.
Well, absolutely. And again, it's another game where we as fans sit back and it's a tale of two halves. Rivers looks absolutely golden in the first half, just, hitting passes putting the ball where it needs to be, Denario Alexander on that 80-yard catch. Love the balance. By the way,
awesome.
An awesome pickup. But
that was awesome.
And I hate to even bring up that first Denver game, but going into halftime of that game, we're up 24-0, and I had no confidence in our ability to close out that game. And lo and behold, 35 unanswered points in the second half later, we lose.
Right, and you could even go back to the New Orleans game, but honestly, after the way last season ended, I honestly, as excited as I was moving into this season, I wanted to kind of just forget about last season, water under the bridge, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, it's like, can they pull it off? So many times this team collapses, and for whatever reason, my biggest thing is that, in the past, we've come out of halftime and we've been able to make those adjustments and come back on teams or pull away from teams. And it's now like the complete opposite. We tend to get a lead and we can't hold on to it. because of either bonehead mistakes, receivers dropping the ball, Matthews fumbling the ball, Rivers making poor judgments and throwing interceptions that, unfortunately, a few of them have been run back for touchdowns that even is insult to injury, but just really crucial things. And then this week, the special teams breakdown cost us 7 points. They blocked the kick. Not only do they score a touchdown, but everybody's like, oh my God, are we going to lose our one All-Star representative or Pro Bowl representative? You know what I mean? And it's like one thing after another, and it's just hard to watch.
Well, and it is really, really hard to watch. And back to the Cypress punt that got blocked. I know every single Charger fan out there, their heart sank immediately. I saw him hit the ground and the way he was grasping at his leg, and my first thought was almost exactly what you said. Well, there goes our Pro Bowl rep right there, one of our best players, and gosh, you really don't want to go back to the days, when we were really bad and Darren Bennett was one of our MVPs, but, I mean, Mike Cyphers has proven that he's an extremely reliable punter, able to pin it down deep, great hang time. And to see him go down, they were talking about possibly putting in Eric Weddle as the punter.
You stole it right from my mouth. I wanted to say that. My girlfriend actually pointed that out, the fact that she's like, Eric Weddle can do everything. He's returning kicks. He's playing safety. They're talking about him going in as the punter. I didn't get that. I mean, we paid this guy good money, and he's really the key to our defense in a lot of ways. And to put him out there returning kicks or punting, you're just looking for an injury to happen, because it's not something that he practices. I'm pretty sure it's not something that he does on an everyday basis. Whether he stretches differently, you know what I mean? And there's so many things that could go wrong in that situation. And I guess, with Nick Novak being our only kicker, do you throw him out there, insult to injury? Now we don't have anybody kick field goals. They're just kind of in a tough situation right now. And I know they released Kading, but there's got to be some other alternative. They need to pick up a kicker. I hate to say it. I mean, as much help as we need in other facets. If we were to lose Cyphers for whatever reason, maybe this tweak turns into something bigger. What do we do? I mean, you can't throw our star safety out there in every position. I mean, it's like it's like the movie.
And what was the worst part for me is, okay, fine, if he can punt, which apparently he did do a little of that at Utah, I feel more comfortable about that than I do him returning punts. And it's not necessarily about the two that he fumbled. It's more Antoine Cason showed, and God knows that we could really use a spark from him in some area of the game.
Right.
He can return punts. He's very athletic. He's good with the ball in his hands once he does that, and he has shown in the past that he's a good punt returner. Now, for whatever reason, Norman Company have decided that they don't want him to do that.
Well, him or Eddie Royal.
Yeah, well, and Eddie Royal, good Lord. I'm sure we'll touch on that in a bit, but he's extremely frustrating from a fan perspective, but to have Weddle be able to back up every position is not realistic. I guess if he can punt, then fine, but I certainly don't want him back there returning punts.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's a question for you. I mean, when I was watching the game against Tampa, okay, we know they have the number one rush defense in the NFL. They lead the NFL in negative running plays. Their pass defense is dead last in the NFL. People can pass on them all day long, and we proved it on how many occasions we run on first and second down. We get hammered. It's 3rd and 12, it's 3rd and 8, and we're continuing to move down the field. We're hitting these long pass plays on 3rd down and continuing the drive. Why do they continue to run? Not in general, but against the Bucs. Why do they continue to run when the passing game is working so well?
I don't have a good answer for that. And people, many fans and media experts, if you will, have had an issue with Norv being extremely predictable in his play calling. It's almost a given that on 1st and 2nd down, Norv, unless we're behind, but Norv is going to line up that team, and we're going to run it on 1st down, we're going to run it on 2nd down. And depending on the results of those 2 downs, we're going to be slinging the ball. A lot of times throwing it much further down the field than need be. And it doesn't work that way in today's NFL. And like you said, you're going against the number one run defense in the NFL, during that game. There's no reason to try to overdo that when they have the worst pass defense. And you got Phillip back there who, despite not having Jared Gaither, had a decent amount of time to throw the ball.
Right.
There's no good excuse for not continuing to attack that defense. And my other issue with running the ball, okay, fine, run the ball. Ryan Matthews is this fast, explosive running back. All we were running is power. We're running power where you're pulling either one of the guards. I love Vasquez. I really hope we re-sign him even before the season's out.
Right.
And I'm not a big fan of Green, but neither one of those guys are quick enough or athletic enough to pull like that.
Right.
Yet we're running power almost every other play that's a run play. It doesn't work like that. Get Matthews to the outside. I'm not saying to run a sweep or a toss or even a stretch play, every single time we're going to run the ball, but you can't just continue to bang it up the middle or run that power. People are ready for that. He's been doing it too long.
Right, I agree with you, and Jason could probably even touch on this. We were kind of talking about in the bye week that, adding Rosario to the other end, you got Gates on one end, Rosario to the other end, to get a little more run blocking, or even to give Rivers a little more blocking in general for the passing game. I don't know why they don't do that and why they don't use McLean more.
I agree. I think that they need to bring Rosario in there a lot more, get him more active in the passing game. Not necessarily. I do think that they still need to run the ball. I agree with Booga that I think they're running too much power. But they do need to keep. You can't just pass it every down. It just isn't going to work. But why aren't they getting the second tight end involved more often? I agree with you, Josh. We've talked about it before, and I just don't understand.
Well, that or you got the toss plays. I just think he's so much better in the open field, and obviously, our line can't open up big enough holes for him. So why don't we throw him out there on the end more? If you throw a tight end out there that can help, block, your right or left tackle, laying a block and run it that way, with your wide receivers, I think they would have more success, doing that on occasion than trying to run it up the gut when obviously we're not, big enough or, to open up these holes.
Well, and the thing, and I think most fans were aware of this, is we're leading up into this season. As soon as we picked up Rosario, all Norv would do was brag about how athletic he was and what a great pass catcher he was. So, and that supports both of your points in stating put two tights out there, regardless of what side, probably Gates on the right and Rosario on the left. You set it up with the run, then possibly play action, but don't be afraid to sling it to these guys. I mean, obviously that type of a play calling scheme worked okay in New England with Hernandez and Gronkowski.
Right.
I'm not comparing our tight ends to those guys, but it's obviously, something that a team could take advantage of, and it's hard for defenses to match up when you have two guys like Gates and Rosario.
Right. I totally agree. Not to get off subject, but Justin just chimed in via Twitter saying how sexy he looks. What do you think about that, Norv?
He's saying that's completely unacceptable.
You got nothing to say? Figures. WTF, Norv.
Goodness.
So, moving on. Can we still make the playoffs? Okay. I don't have the confidence, honestly, that we're going to go into Denver and win. I really don't. So let's say we lose that. Now we're 4-6. Honestly, we need to win out the rest of the way. 10-6 to give us a shot. 9-7 is not going to cut it, and we still got to play Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Raiders, and there's one more that's in there that I'm missing. But I'd like both of you guys to chime in on this. Do we still have a chance to make the playoffs, or is it time to maybe make some decisions, shake it up a little bit, and really prepare for next year?
Jason, why don't you take this one first, buddy?
All right. I personally, as a fan, to me, we can always make the playoffs until we're eliminated. I don't ever want to give up. They've done nothing that shows me. We got something going on in the background there. They've done nothing so far that shows me that they can win games consistently. They've been so inconsistent this year. But until they are eliminated, I'm not giving up hope. And for all the people that want to fire Norv, we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show. I'm more on board with that now. I've always been a big Norv supporter, but I think it's a big mistake to fire him before we're eliminated. What do you think there, Booga?
Well, and again, like you said, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-show, and the more I heard you talk, the more I agree with you. And the reason that I agree with you is it makes perfect sense that until you're eliminated, it might not be the best timing to shake things up. Now, is that what the majority of the fan base wants? Gosh, they wanted Norv fired before the season began. So of course, regardless of how serious how seriously bad it's going to get or has already become, the fan base is mostly going to say, well, just axe him. We don't want to deal with it anymore. And I've slowly warmed up to that idea and kind of cooled off a bit just through our conversations. And back to what Josh was saying and what the initial question, we lose against Denver, I truly think that we are done. And I don't like to have a defeatist attitude. I've been a Charger fan for 3 decades. I'll support us at 1-15 in 2001 and 14-2, and then having Schottenheimer fired, or 2007 AFC Championship. Whatever it is, I'm going to be with this team. Sweating bullets every single game. But man, I don't see us being able to make up that kind of a deficit. And that boy Andrew Luck, he's pretty good, and he's getting stuff figured out in Indy, and that's a team that could keep us from that wild card. Pittsburgh, depending on what happens with Roethlisberger, they're still going to be pretty strong. That run game and the defense, they're built for the playoffs. So if they get there, there's 2 teams right there that could keep us out. Miami losing, of course, in the fashion that they did against Tennessee, that gives us a bit of promise. But
right.
I really think we lose to Denver. We're in really rough shape, and I do not think we're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, glass half full, I guess you could take the approach of the Giants. Everybody wrote the Giants off. Everybody, their fans, everybody. The coach was supposed to be fired. It was ironically a similar situation to what we're going through right now. Do we make the run like the Giants did and run all the way through and win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But like Jason said, as a fan, there's always that hope. You're always going to be hanging on to that what if. Hopefully they do. My thing is the last thing I'd want them to do is show up in the first round of the playoffs and get absolutely shellacked, or completely embarrass us again on national television. Not like they haven't already, but if they're going to make it to the playoffs, I want them to compete. And if they're not going to compete, I don't even want them being there. Because last thing I need is another embarrassment as a fan. It's hard enough going to work and listen to every other, transplant, talk crap about the Chargers.
Right. Well, yeah, and I'm on the other side of the country, so me wearing a Chargers jersey everywhere I go, it doesn't matter if I'm in Walmart getting my oil changed, regardless of where I'm at. Ooh, man, you're a Chargers fan, or you just like that player? Well, yes, I'm a diehard Chargers fan. Even when I flew from Charlotte to San Diego for the Kansas City game, the guy at the U.S. Airways desk goes, hey, because I was wearing a Mike Cyphers jersey, he goes,
right.
At least you're not wearing a Rivers jersey. That guy sucks. He's screwing my fantasy team over. Good Lord, man.
Right.
It's tough, man. It's really tough.
So I guess since we're on the subject, do you guys think the Denver game is winnable? Do you think we can go in there and pull out a W? Obviously, the dog doesn't think so.
We're capable of doing it. Look back to and I hate to do the first half story, but the first half of our first meeting, we got up 24-0. Now that's at home. It's not in the thin air of Mile High and Vesco Field or whatever the heck they're calling it now. But yeah, I absolutely think we can. It's a division game. The Chargers coaching staff knows that squad well enough, despite it being Peyton's first year. I'm not going to pull what a lot of people are and the Chargers have Peyton Manning's number. Well, that was with a completely different team, and that's not relevant to me anymore. I think we're capable of winning. Do I think that we are going to win? And this is not just a fan of me. Yes, I think we're going to beat Denver. And I think it's because we have to. Because if we don't, half of this squad is gone. The coaching staff will be completely worked over.
Right.
I really, truly think that we're going to win this game. And, we'll see. But I really think the Chargers win this game.
Yeah. Jason, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I actually agree with Booga. I think that we are going to win this game. I'm thinking more along – I have more of the thought process of the fan, the hardcore fan. I still think we're going to turn it around this year. I really do. I think that the reasons we're losing are just small. You look at Rivers. He's going out there and he is making stupid mistakes, but he's throwing it in 80% completion rate.
Right.
It's just that one stupid play that he's making, or two stupid plays a game, and we're that close to winning these games. And I just think we're going to do it. I still think we're going to turn around. And I still think we're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like you said, Jason, it's really a stupid play. It really is. I mean, he should know going into that, okay, if my receivers aren't open, I'm throwing the ball away, we're kicking the field goal, we're moving on. I mean, there's not anybody within 10 feet of, the defender. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what was going through his mind. Obviously, he was very upset at it because if you remember when the guy's running back the kick, Rivers is chasing him down. He's flailing his hands all around,
right.
And
he's throwing a little bit of a hissy fit,
throwing a friggin' tantrum on the field, but it's like, dude, get it through your thick skull that you're the one that did that. I mean, didn't you think this through before you made that pass, or before you took that hike? That, hey, if my guys, I mean, to me, if you're going to be a big time quarterback, and you're going to take us deep into the playoffs and potentially win a championship, you can't make these mistakes. You have to know going into it, okay, if all my options are failed, I need to throw the ball away, or I need to take a knee, or whatever it takes to keep me in the situation where I can still put points on the board.
See, I don't think that Rivers is playing that much different than he has in the past. I just think in the past he had a younger Gates, and he had Vincent Jackson, who are a couple big receivers who fought for the ball. And so when he'd make a dumb play, now that one interception on the sideline, there's nothing anybody could do. But a lot of these are interceptions where Meachum is just kind of given up and Royal has given up, where he's used to having guys that fight for the ball, and the guys just don't seem to be fighting for the ball anymore, and maybe he's going to have to adapt to that.
So I got a Twitter question that just came in since we're on the subject of Rivers. At Ultimate Lax Bro wants to know, obviously like us, he hoped that Rivers would get it done this year. He wants to know, is he still the Chargers quarterback for the future, or does San Diego need a draft for the future?
Well, I don't mind taking this one. A lot of people are really excited about this upcoming quarterback draft class, and I have to say I am certainly not one of those people. I'm not a big Barkley fan. Geno Smith is obviously cooled off. I like Tyler Wilson, but I'm not, and Landry Jones has the tools and this and that, but he's cooled off. He should have come out in the draft last year as far as a financial decision, but I think it's been proven that when Rivers is comfortable and has time, he can fling it like he did in 2010 to an NFL record, 17 different receivers, and lead the league in passing yardage. I mean, I'm not ready to give up on Phillip Rivers, and it's not just because he's my favorite player that's playing right now. I truly believe that, he's terrified. Gaither, when he's in there, is hobbling around, whether it's a hammy or back spasms. Mike Harris, he actually had a great game overall, minus the last two sacks he gave up against Tampa Bay. But Tyron Green is a turnstile. It doesn't matter who they have lining up over him. That guy's going to have a good day, and it's frustrating. But no, I'm not ready to give up on Phillip Rivers, and I am not excited about the draft class that's coming out.
I can agree with you as far as the draft class. I was a little bit as far as I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. USC's quarterback,
Barkley.
But USC's kind of fallen off the map. They were, a favorite, going into the season as far as winning a championship, and they're having a hard time staying in the top 25 at this point.
They were ranked number one coming into the collegiate season. They were number one, and
absolutely.
Obviously they're not anymore.
Absolutely. If anything, maybe Oregon's quarterback, their offense is incredible, and there's even talk that their coach is going to get some options here.
Quarterback's not our problem. Quarterback is not our problem. I still don't think it's our problem.
No, but I'm just saying in general as far as the draft class.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think? There's a lot of rumors about Oregon's coach coming into the NFL, and his high-powered offense.
Ooh, I love Kelly, actually, I just did and I'm not folding on Norv completely, so forgive me, but part of my job at Bolt Beat is to write about things that are relevant or things that are possibilities, and I did my top 10 replacements for Norv Turner if he were to be fired, and I have 1A and 1B, 1B being Mike Holmgren and 1A being Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
His style and his offensive scheme is going to require, a much more mobile quarterback than Rivers.
Right.
But he's going from the collegiate level to the NFL. It's not just the players that will have to adjust to him. He's going to have to adjust that playbook and his ideals to a degree.
Right.
He's a maverick. The guy goes for it on fourth down. He's aggressive. He gets his players fired up. They respect him. They respond to him well. Now, does that translate well to the NFL game? A lot of the people I've talked to on Twitter, they disagree with me. They don't necessarily believe that he's one of those guys that will make a good transition into the NFL. I, on the other hand, I really like what he has to offer. It would take some time. I don't like the quarterback draft class for this year. Do I think we should bring somebody in 2014 to start grooming them? Yes, absolutely. Like Chip Kelly a lot.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I think as far as a replacement for Norv, we definitely need something that a little more vocal. And kind of why I like some of these college coaches is because of the whole rah-rah attitude. They're really good at firing up firing up their team. They're cheerleaders, really. I mean, they're very knowledgeable, don't get me wrong, but they really know how to fire up these young kids. And obviously, look in San Francisco, it's worked very well out there. It seems to be working in Seattle. So I don't see why Chip Kelly or there some other college coaches out there couldn't perform at the NFL level. Jason, you had something?
Yeah, we got an email question in for you guys if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah.
It is from Cali Caliente, and she says, I'm anxious to see Vincent Brown return, especially since I picked up a new jersey with his number. What's your thoughts on his return, and how best will he be used now that we have Denario Alexander?
Well, I mean, first of all, Vincent Brown obviously would be huge to add to our offense as far as his route running ability, his hands, his speed. They said that he was arguably one of if not the number one receiver coming in as far as spring training, and not spring training, but you know what I mean, the preseason.
Preseason, yeah.
And the thing is, I haven't heard anything from him recently. It was all talked about around the Kansas City game. He's going to become available for us to put him back on the roster, and I think his healing process is taking longer than expected. Buga, do you know any more about that situation?
Well, I mean, basically you said it right there. The hope was that he would, and that was as early as possible, so to speak, per the guidelines of the injured reserve designated to return mandate, if you will. But, the hope was that he would come back as early as Kansas City, and then, if not then, to play against Tampa Bay. Well, he had a couple hiccups, so to speak, in the rehab process, and from what I'm reading, via the Union Tribune or even Marty Caswell, he's out there and he's had a jersey on and he's run a couple routes, but it's sounding like there's still a good couple weeks before we're going to see Brown back on the field. Now, one thing that I kind of appreciate about the organization and Norv and them is they haven't given up on him returning, I should say, which also shows that they do actually plan on making something happen with this season, or they would just straight out IR him. So
right, and I mean, not to say that Alexander hasn't stepped in very well, and Ajera Tutu, I mean, at least that one game made some great catches, and there's some chemistry with him and Phillip from the past. But I think getting Vincent Brown back will definitely help the offense. It definitely is not going to hurt the offense. And this kind of goes on to what you wanted to bring up, Buga, with him potentially coming back and with the emergence of Tutu and Alexander. What do we do now with Meachum and Royal?
Oh boy, Royal. Personally with Royal, I was extremely excited that we brought in Royal and Meachum. to help aid the fact that Vincent Jackson chased the money and didn't get what he deserved in San Diego.
Right.
That's kind of blown up in my face, needless to say. As far as Royal, I'd like to see him returning both kicks and punts, not just punts. You know, the guy's proven he can do it. We've now got Goodman on IR, and we've got Curtis Brinkley back there returning punts. I like Curtis Brinkley, do not get me wrong. I don't want him returning kickoffs, quite frankly.
Right.
As far as Robert Meachum, you know, we're on the hook for, I think it's $5 million for a base salary for next year, regardless of what happens. I don't think we see another David Boston type scenario where he's 1 year and done. But what I would hope possibly is, and this is going to sound terrible, but I'd hope that we could try to find a willing suitor and try to get, even if it was just a conditional 4th or 5th round pick. Can't imagine it would be a 4th, but a conditional 5th round pick, and ship him away and maybe pick up some later pick in the draft. And I don't want to give up on the guy, but you know, I don't recall his exact number of catches, but it's minimal, and he's getting paid at least like a number 2. I believe his actual salary is more comparable to a number 1, and he's made it really clear that he's not that guy. Alexander, I mean, that guy has had 2 sensational games. He looks great. He's able to use his body to shield defenders while catching the ball. He hands catches the ball as well.
Right.
I think we got a real steal in him. I like Tutu being back. I don't know if he'll necessarily be back for the following season, but when Vincent Brown comes back, if you have Floyd on one side, Alexander on the other, and you're running Vincent Brown all over the field,
right.
You know, I don't know where Meachum even fits into that equation. And quite frankly, as far as Royal is concerned, other than filling in for Vincent Brown, I don't know where he does as a wide receiver either.
I couldn't agree with you more. Meachum, I've been very disappointed. I was very hopeful of him coming into the season. You know, I was most excited about him coming here. And like you said, he honestly probably has more drops than he does receptions. I mean, I honestly can't remember too many receptions that he's had that's, you know, been anything other than the 2 touchdowns he had in like week 3.
Against the Saints, he had the 2 touchdown game, and other than that, I believe he has between 19 and 21 receptions. And forgive me for not knowing the exact number, but
right.
We've gone through 9 games, and I know he missed last week, but I mean that's more than pathetic. It's frustrating, you know. Again, about replacing Vincent Jackson, I like that the organization fired back the next day. I think it might have even been the same day that Vincent had signed with or decided to sign with Tampa Bay. We
right.
snagged up Meachum, and then 2 days later, or a day and a half later, we snagged Royal. So I'm like, okay, we're working the right thing. Then we brought in Parrish and Spurlock. Well, Parrish and Spurlock are playing for other teams. Meachum, haven't really seen anything from him. He might as well be playing for another team. And Royal, he might actually have, I don't know for sure, but he's dropped almost as many passes as he's caught. So I don't know.
Yeah. With me, like I said, Meachum, I agree with you. If we can get somebody to unload that contract, even if we get a low round draft, why not get a nice, fresh young body from the college ranks to fill a spot? You never know what you're going to find. I mean, Tom Brady came from the 6th round, so you really never know what you're going to find. It could be a diamond in the rough. With Royal, like you said, filling in, at least right now, he's going to get some playing time still in the slot, and obviously kick returns. He should be in there, in my opinion. But, when Vincent Brown comes back, other than a fill-in role, Royal's time is going to be very, very limited. I kind of want to jump into this last topic. I don't know about last topic, but as far as the O-line goes, obviously we're very frustrated. It's well documented that they're a big reason why Phillip Rivers has to, get rid of the ball before, he needs to, why he's got people, constantly hitting him, constantly chasing him around the field. What's the Chargers' number one priority? I know it's O-line, in my opinion, but is it through the draft or is it through free agency?
Well, it depends, and I say it depends, and I have this vision of grandeur in my mind. Jake Long, starting left tackle of the Dolphins, his contract's up at the end of the year. A solid guy. He struggled a little bit this year, which happens with every player to some degree at some point in their career. It's not to say he can't bounce back. The guy's a stud. He was great at Michigan, when he was there in college. I've always liked him. If I could put one emphasis on one free agent or one player that's currently in the league that we tried to add to the Chargers roster, it would be Jake Long. We need that strong, tough, consistent, healthy left tackle that can sit back there, and Phillip is not concerned about his blind side.
Right.
Now, we've got Gaither on the hook for a good amount of money. What I would like to happen at that point then is, we put Long in at left tackle. If Gaither is healthy enough to play a game, slide him over to right, boot Clary back to number one contract, and then move. No, I don't know if he even has what it takes to be a guard. His feet are too sloppy. He can't handle anybody quick, but I guess if he was playing guard, he'd be dealing with defensive tackles and noses. But I would have him as a reserve, restructure his contract, and then second round of the draft, I would look for an interior lineman to replace Tyron Green. The guy, I love the story that the UT put out about him in the offseason where he cut all this weight and he's pulling, trucks behind him, that are attached to ropes. And, well, none of that really worked out so well. It didn't help him block as far as, getting stuff done in either the run game or the pass game.
Yeah.
First
like
round of the draft. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, it's like a quarterback that has $1 million arm. If he can't put it on the money, what's the point of having $1 million arm? I mean, you can throw the ball 70 yards, but if you can't put it in the receiver's hands, then what good are you?
A la Jeff George, absolutely. The cannon doesn't matter if you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why can't...
With the line real quick before we go away from that, what about Nick Hardwick? He's by far our best lineman. I think I've always been a big fan of his, but he almost retired in the offseason. How much longer is he going to play?
That's a good question.
It's a scary question, to be honest with you. Now, David Molk, I think, is one of the most underrated draft picks that we had, that we took this past year. Now, he's a little bit shorter, but that's okay for a center. Extremely strong, a heady, intelligent guy. Do I think he's ready to start next year? No. I really hope that Nick fulfills his contract, and I believe it was a 2-year deal, and I hope we get him one more year. And if for no other reason, he does it for Phillip, because we need him.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a great question, Jason. As far as Hardwick goes, man, he's had many years there with Phillip, and they have such a connection there. And we've seen other people have to fill his role when he went down, and there was some fumbled snaps, and people don't realize how important that position is. For one, being able to be on time as far as the snap, but not only that, filling the hole. I mean, he's got to go up against the biggest of the biggest on the defensive line, those nose tackles, and he's definitely going to be some big shoes to fill.
Well, for me, and even more than that, it's calling out the blocking assignments and identifying the mic for the O-line. Those type of qualities you don't just find in anybody. Now, I know that they do a little bit of that in college as well, and again, Molk's an intelligent kid, but I'm not ready to hand the reins over to him as far as making sure that Phillip's going to be protected in the sense that he's going to line everybody up where they need to be and make sure that they're going to put their hat on the right guy. So.
Yeah, I got a tweet in just now from at iBesky, BESYKE. He says Hartwig and Gates can't retire without a ring. And I mean, this kind of stuff we've been talking about just over the years, not let alone on the show, but over the years is, Breeze, obviously he moved on, but Tomlinson, we had Junior Seau, we had Rodney Harrison, we had all these great players that, played really long careers with us. Some of them moved on and won a ring, some of them didn't at all. But it's really heartbreaking to have all these guys that, really done well for the city, really performed at very high levels, and we can't get a ring on their finger. It's really frustrating. I mean, not only us fans, obviously, we want a championship. We're tired of everybody pointing the finger, where's your ring? Where's your ring? But the fact that these players mean so much to the community, we are heartfelt and we do want to see these guys win a championship. They've put in the effort. Now it's time for them to reap the rewards.
Hey, I got a question
agree.
from the
with
chat
players
room real
like
quick if you
Hardwick
guys want to hear it.
that are great Pro Bowl players, but kind of not out there for the public eye. Things like Super Bowls are the kind of awards that help get them into the things like the Hall of Fame and all decades team or whatever, and to see, or even Gates, which he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but who knows with the group of writers that are voting people in. I really hope they change that, but that's a story for another day. Hardwick and Gates absolutely deserve a ring, and I hope that they get one with the Chargers. I don't see Hardwick really going anywhere else, and I don't see Gates doing that either, but who knows with this organization and the way that things are about to be turned upside down if indeed we don't make the playoffs. So there's a lot left to be seen, and again, IB Psych is right. That's a cool guy, by the way. I really like him. But those guys deserve a ring, and I don't want them retiring without one.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Jason wants to touch on something, but really quick before I go to that is with these guys, I think kind of lost my train of thought. Actually, Jason, you want to go ahead and chime in and let me think about this?
I was sorry to interrupt you guys. I actually had a question in the chat room for you guys if you guys want to try and take that.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's from the Raider Hater. He's in the chat room right now on Justin TV.
Love that
yeah,
guy.
buddy.
Love that
He
guy.
says, I have a question. Is there a double standard with Phillip Rivers and Ryan Matthews being benched? I think he's talking about the turnovers because, of course, at the beginning of the year, I've heard some people talk about that. What do you guys think about that? Is that a double standard?
Well, and you know what? I brought that up in the past, and I think we kind of just shrugged it off. But, they benched Ryan Matthews for fumbling down on the goal line and taking points off the board. And I argued with Justin over the fact of of benching Rivers because, what does that show to Matthews and the rest of the team? You're gonna bench Matthews, but you can't bench your starting quarterback. I think they should all be treated equally, in my opinion. And I know we would much rather have Rivers in there for clipboard Jesus. But at the same time, it's not like I'm saying bench Rivers for the game. Maybe he doesn't play the first snap or the first drive. The first down. I mean, it's just enough to open his eyes that he can't make these decisions because he's just as capable of sitting on the bench as well as the rest of the guys.
And I like what you're saying, and Raider Hater's right. There is a double standard, and you know what? I don't want clipboard Jesus in the game, and I hate to be this way, and I try not to think of one player being above another. When I look at the positions and the importance of each position, regardless of what happens on a play, the quarterback touches the ball every single play. That's not to say that the running back position is any less important. It's just different. I like what we have behind Matthews better than what we have behind Rivers. I don't know if anybody caught a Football Life with Jimmy Johnson, and I'll make this short, but he was talking about this reserve linebacker that fell asleep in the back of the team meeting, and he walked up to the guy and basically said, "You're out of here, you're cut." He cut the guy. Well, he was asked by some, said, "Well, what if that had been Troy Aikman in the back of that room and he was asleep?" Jimmy Johnson said, "I walked up to him, I would have tapped him on the shoulder and said, 'Troy, wake up,' and then I would have went back to my meeting." There's just something, and I don't want to call it a stigma. There's just something about the quarterback position, and that you kind of, I don't want to say you need to treat it differently, but most people would and do. I don't think we should bench Rivers. Do I think that Norv needs to be a little more proactive during certain situations and get in his headset and say, "Phillip, no matter what you do, throw the ball away if it's not there"? Does he do that? Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, Norv doesn't strike me as a guy who tends to be overly abusive when it comes to treating players the way that they need to be treated. So
Norv, you don't have to cry, buddy. It'll be okay.
I see a tear. WTF, Norv.
Yeah, WTF, Norv. It'll be okay. Just when Rivers talk smack, you need to set him straight. I see him all the time. Bashing you on the sidelines and basically say talk to the hand. But you know what? You're the head coach. You run the show. So WTF, Norv.
Yeah, when he waved him off, I can't even remember the game for sure. I think it was Denver. Norv should have taken him aside and said that is completely unacceptable, like he did a reporter after the Tampa Bay game, and said that will not happen again. Now, if he doesn't want to do it on the field in front of the cameras, fine, whatever. And maybe he did that, but I find it hard to believe that he took Phillip aside and said, hey, if I'm trying to get in your ear about something, I certainly don't want you waving me off. I don't want you doing it in front of all of your teammates, and I don't want you doing it on national television.
Right, and I got another tweet in here as far as double standard goes. At Ultimate Laxbro, he said same double standard happened in Miami. Tannehill had 3 interceptions in one game. They didn't bench him.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush has 1 fumble, and they benched him for the rest of the half. So, I mean, I guess, as far as the quarterback, they're held to a different accountability. And I guess I could see that also from the standpoint of they have their hand on the ball on every play, whether they're passing the ball, whether they're handing the ball off. Every offensive play, the ball's in their hands. So they touch the ball a heck of a lot more than a running back, a receiver, or tight end, anybody else on that offensive system. So for some standpoint, they are held to a different level. But at the same time, if you don't bench them, you better well stand up to them. And and again, that's another thing we're just lacking in a leader as far as a head coach goes, is somebody that's going to stand up to these players and say, hey, you know what, you're not bigger than the game. You're not bigger than these fans that pay, bucks to come watch you play. You need to, work this out. You need to make the right decisions, and let's move on. Let's win a game. But you can give them constructive criticism without, punching them in the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can give them some constructive criticism. You can guide them a little bit, but at the same time, fill them a little positive and, keep his spirits high. Where he's not just like, you're an asshole. Excuse my French.
No, you're fine. As a coach, you have to know the guys that you have to coddle, and then you have to be able to recognize the guys that you need to get in their face. And the only way they're going to respond effectively is to cuss them out and do whatever it takes. I'm not talking about hitting them or whatever, but do what it takes to get your point across. No 2 players are the same regardless, and that doesn't matter what level of football you're at. Even when I was coaching Pee-wee football, I had the kids I could be hard on and let them know, hey, you do that again, you're going to sit down. And then I had the kids that were crucial players on the team. But if I took that approach with them, that kid's going to be crying, bawling, missing assignments, not even trying to tackle anybody, run the ball, whatever. It's like that in the NFL. You have to have that wherewithal to say, okay, this is one of those guys I can literally, scream at if I need to, and then these are the guys that I need to kind of go over and say, hey, it'll get better next time. It just depends on what's going to work with that individual player, and I just don't think Norv has that.
Right, and that's kind of what I was touching on as far as the fact that some players, everybody's brought up differently, and you got some of these guys that have lived in the ghetto. They have not a dime to their name. All of a sudden, they have a $10 million contract. Everybody's screaming their name, and they think they're bigger and better than everybody. And you need somebody, you need a leader as far as a coach, or like a Ray Lewis type that's gonna get in your face and say, hey, we're a team here. There's no I in team. You need to take whatever attitude and throw it out the door before you step on this field.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I would love for the leader to be the head coach in most 99% of situations, but sometimes it does take a Ray Lewis type. I mean, obviously what he's done for so many, players that have either had trouble. Jimmy Smith, the cornerback, that they drafted out of Colorado, who's I think a second-year player now, maybe third. He had a really tumultuous background as far as how he was raised and where he was from, and then even had trouble in college. Well, Ozzie Newsome, the GM of the Ravens, said, I've got Ray Lewis. We'll get this figured out. I've got Ed Reed. We'll get this figured out. I don't know that we have those kind of leaders. I know Spikes has been in the league since 1912, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's that kind of a guy. You have Jarrett Johnson, who's a great leader, but he's a leader by example. He's not a rah-rah, get in your face kind of a guy. And I'm not necessarily on the JJ bandwagon by any means, but I don't know that we have that kind of a guy. I just don't, especially not on D.
And it was even back with Sean Merriman. he was a vocal leader on defense, and you always see him fire up the troops before they got on the field. And you're right. It's we got a lot of quality players, but not anybody that's standing up and taking the reins offensively or defensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you want to think that a guy like Rivers, whose dad is a high school coach, and he was bred on football, so to speak. He was fed it, he lived it, and this and that. He would kind of be that guy, and he is. But then, you watch the same press conference over and over again in the same story. Again, don't get me wrong. People who know me know how much I love Phillip Rivers.
Right.
I respect him as a person, as a father, and as a football player. Now, am I tired of hearing the same thing over and over again? Absolutely. Now, if that's what the players are hearing as well, hey, real quick, they get paid to play this game, but if they're hearing that same broken record, how often or how many more times are they going to be able to follow this man and say, yep, Phillip's right, we're just going to turn this around, we're just a couple plays away. I don't know if they can buy into it anymore.
Yeah, it's like how many times do you got to eat crap before you realize you're eating crap? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You're just eating it and eating it and eating it and eating it, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, this really tastes like crap. Why am I eating this?
Yeah, this hasn't tasted good the whole time. I'm not sure why I kept doing it over and over. Yeah, no, I hear you. Great analogy, by the way.
So, I want to kind of simmer down here. We're starting to run out of time. There's a couple shout-outs I want to make. First and foremost to the Bolt fam. We have a shout-out to Ryan O'Valley. Ryan_O'Valley 37. A big happy birthday to you from the Bolt fam. I also have a shout out to Taylor Blackwell for supporting and watching the show. His Twitter handle is @ChargerTKC. These guys are two good follows. Bolt fam all the way. Really appreciate you guys following through with all your insight, questions, and just following the show. I really appreciate it. Booga, as always, I really appreciate everything that you do for us as far as getting our name out there, putting us in your write-ups on boltbeat.com, taking the time in North Carolina where it's probably almost 11 o'clock out there, to fill in for Justin. I really appreciate it. You've been a very big help, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, no thanks needed, any of that stuff. People deserve to hear what you guys have to say. You guys have a great show. I love calling in, and this was a great opportunity for me. And actually, I just want to say I appreciate you guys affording me this opportunity. And season's not over yet, but we'll find out come Sunday, in my opinion, if it is. And here's to hoping that it's not, guys. Bolt up. Let's keep this thing. Hopefully, at some point, let's get it turned around. Pardon me, and we'll find out again this Sunday. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, Josh. Thanks, Jason.
You got it, Booga. I appreciate you as always, and we'll be talking soon, buddy.
Sounds good. Later, guys.
So for all you guys watching in tonight, all the tweets coming in, the emails, man, we really appreciate you. This is a show for fans, by the fans. Let your voice be heard. Continue to send us emails, tweets. We have our Facebook page, facebook.com/SD Sports Junkies. Send us messages in on our Facebook page. You can like us and get all of our updated information, Chargers, Padres, Aztecs. Jason, thanks for, being a part of the show. You got something?
We had a lot of activity in the chat room on Justin TV also. So people, if you're in the chat room, you want to put up questions, we're going to go ahead and put them right on the show too. So thanks for the participation.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, this is really your show. So all this information that I get, obviously we do our research, but a lot of these questions are from you, the fans, and we really appreciate you. Without you, this show isn't possible. So I really appreciate you guys. Norv, I appreciate you being in today in Justin's spot. I know you haven't had much to say, and I think we got some tissues for you around here somewhere that you can wipe those tears away. But you know what? Things will be better. Maybe not for you, but things will be better in the future. So you guys, thank you so much. San Diego Sports Junkies, we're going to be out. See you next week.